Good morning. It is, and you know what? I've still got my AirPods in. Everything is still connected. So hopefully you can hear me. I didn't even check my audio settings. Um, okay, they're working. Uh, anyway, good morning. It is Friday, February 24th. Um, I am in the middle of a snowpocalypse out here in the Pacific Northwest. Here, I'll even show you out my window. You can see my broken fence out there. That's what happens when the wind uh, blows through at like a bazillion miles an hour. But anyway, that I've got my tea here. It's seeping. As always, I'm a little bit late, but I don't know. I've been up since like 7 this morning. No, not 7, 6. I don't know, 5:36, something like that. I have been the other day. I kind of been feeling bad that I had not been working on Jim's book as much as I wanted to, because it is like he'll record the audio and then I'll do the whole transcribe, and then I have an AI do that, and then but it doesn't pick up every single word, so I have to listen to it, go through and edit and all that kind of stuff. And he had one clip on there that it it was unintelligible, so I actually had to listen to that and then type out everything he did. So it is a lot of work. And of course, I've been focused on my school, but it's one of those projects where, for me, because he had sent me so much material and I collected so much material, I was behind. So actually, as of this morning, I am caught up. I am so caught up that I have placed all the stories so far in the book. Like, I already have the book going. We are at total page count of 112 pages. That does include, the title page and the table of contents and the foreword, which hasn't been written yet, and the introduction, which hasn't been written yet. And not that every book needs an introduction or even a foreword, but for this book is appropriate. I think I'm going to write the foreword, and Jim will write the introduction. Or it actually could be, we could have two introductions, one from me and one from him. But one of the challenges that I've run into is that this is a book of stories, and I've had several people, contribute. It's not just Jim. I've had several people contribute, but my goal with the book is to the best way possible preserve the voice of the storyteller. So there's incorrect grammar. I've tried to get all the words spelled correctly. There were questions that I've had, so I've started reaching out to people saying, "Hey, how is this spelled?" There's been people's names, luckily for Facebook, and I'm not friends with everybody, that everybody else is friends with, but I've been, like a name will be presented and it's got some really weird, it'll be a weird last name, kind of like Handworker. And so I'll get onto Facebook and search Jim's friends list, and I'll be like, that's how you spell the name. So it's been a journey. So we're at over 100 pages. Even with God, what is it? Even with, like, if we did not count the introduction and the title page and all that kind of stuff, we are at 102 pages. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And basically, one of the reasons I've had so much time to do this is because I had to close the school. So there's very little, I can send emails and I can work on other stuff with the school, but really there's like there's nobody responding to emails because a lot of the stuff I've sent out is to schools and the schools have been closed. So, of course, I don't really have any classes on Fridays, but let me have a sip. That's pretty good. I have I have 6 flavors of tea that, and I've been drinking the Tao or Taos or I don't know, whatever, quite a bit lately. So I just grabbed a thing of Stash. I like the different flavor. Anyway, um, so where was I? Yeah, so it's basically preserving. You know, I'm doing my best to preserve, but also uh, creating legible or uh, like organized sentences, paragraphs. There's some where Jim will be talking. Jim will be talking about a situation. He goes, "I said," he said, "I said," he said, and it goes kind of back and forth. So I turned those into, I didn't want to have, he said, I said, he said, I said, going down. So those are more like you're reading a traditional story that has a conversation, a back and forth conversation going. So I'm blending, done a little bit of blending of types, and I'm really happy about it. Now, I don't know when it's going to come out. Jim has like 8 more countries he needs to go over. So whenever he ends up sending that to me, I will be ready to accept. So, um, yes, editor's job is to evolve the narrative for storytelling purposes. Yes, it is. Um, yeah, it's a lot of work. It is a ton of work, and I've got my Naihanchi crimp book. Um, I've got part of it written. We've been in class. We've been working on the applications. I had been coming up with applications. I got them written all out, and then we've been going over. So it's like, okay, did I get my writing correct? How else do I need to word whatever? So that's coming along probably in the next week. I'm hoping, cross my fingers, in the next week or so, I can, maybe 2 weeks, I can actually uh, get people together. And I don't know, it might just be my son, I don't know, but actually work through and do these applications, get them on video, because it will be a visual reader, as I've been talking about, with the QR codes, like I did with the Kyusho information guide. So there'll be not just pictures, but video that you can watch with better, with instruction, and actually just watch me doing the technique as well. So yeah, so I've got that going on, and then I've got everything else going on with the school. So last Saturday um, uh, we had a buddy of mine, Morgan Garrett. He dressed up as a Sith. Um, he did we did like a light Star Wars night at the school for parents' night out for Burton. Didn't have a lot of kids show up, but the kids that did show up had an amazing time. We played with lightsabers, and we watched um, Force Awakens, and I've got a funny story there. And then we played with more lightsabers and had pizza, and yeah, it was a great time. So one of the things that Morgan and I are going to do is we are putting together a summer camp. It's going to be well, I think with the snow days, we'll have to limit it to a 4-day camp, which might make it a little bit cheaper for people. So have a 4-day camp. Um, it'll be basically 4 Fridays in a row where uh, kids are dropped off at like 10 a.m. They're picked up at like 3. So it'll be a 6-hour day. I think, let's see, what is that? I think that's 5. What? 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're picked up at 4. And we're going to do like 2 hours of training. We're going to watch a Star Wars movie and then 2 more hours of training. So, and then during the Star Wars movie, we'll have lunch and, let the kids, if the kids want to just have some free time, they can do that too. But I plan to do a proper Star Wars education. And then on the last day, we will have like a graduation ceremony where they get um, they get their own lightsabers from Saber Forge. So we got to look into that. But yeah, it's gonna be cool. And I mentioned it the other night in class, and I already have people asking about it. So I was like, I said, I'm still trying to put together stuff. So I should have that. I should probably have all that finalized over the weekend about dates and costs. And because it's going to cost a grip, I'm going to do kind of like what I did for Bram's 5-day camp. Do like a prepayment, even like yeah, it'll just so they don't have to slap down $600, $700 all at once. They'll be able to pay a couple points a month. Okay, I said the cursor was over this. It's all word of mouth now. I'm not sure what that's involving. I've been doing a lot of talking. Um, uh, Pizza, yes, we had pizza, Tom. And yes, a Padawan graduation. It's going to be pretty cool. So we are thinking about getting like little Jedi cloaks and issuing them a cloak and a lightsaber and like a little certificate, and just make it just a really fun camp. Oh yeah, totally. Word of mouth was regarding future Star Wars events or nights out. Yes. um and it was I wasn't sure how many people were going to show up. I did charge like $30, but a kid, but it was for 3 hours. I had to give Morgan something because he's giving of his time to teach this lightsaber stuff. And then uh, but also I think it was also happening. There was something else that Saturday. I can't remember what it was. Yeah, I unfortunately I can't remember. Um, but it was pretty funny. I mean, it was fun. So we had one kid sign up and then never showed up. So, and then I had one parent. She had reached out to me and said, "Hey, can I just pay at the door?" Sure, I don't care. Pay at the door. And so she showed up right in the middle. Well, she thought it was the next weekend, not that weekend. So, but then she's also looking for a way to get her kid into martial arts, and we talked about prices and how I teach and how I run the classes and all that stuff. So she was she was very interested in that as well. So, but um, and then one of the kids, they actually left with information on my classes. They actually grabbed some things on the way out the door. So potentially that could open stuff up. I don't know. But yeah, so uh we're going to have this camp. It's going to be freaking awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. Uh let's see. Um, so I'm moving ahead on projects. So there's lots of positive going on in the world. Um, One thing that I haven't really been super public about, even though I had talked about, him being sick, but my stepfather died Friday night, last Friday night. My sister, she got a call, I don't know, Saturday morning, called me right after. So we heard, I don't know, we heard about it at like 7:30 in the morning on Saturday. But which is is sad. I Mark will be missed. Um, but I think the big problem that I've had is that, and it's not that I really want anything like dollar wise. He's not my real father, so I'm not expecting any inheritance or anything like that. But when my mom died, Mark was not on the deed to the house, even though when they got married, he had paid off the house, which actually wasn't a lot of money. It was only like 40 grand. Um, and um, and then but he did a lot to the house. Like he remodeled the kitchen, they redid the deck, they put a pad out underneath. They built this. They reinforced the retaining wall. I mean, he improved the house a ton. Like they put in new windows. So, and my mom was intending the entire time to always put him on the deed, just because it was like, hey, you're my husband. This is just what we do. Um, but but of course she dies. He's not on there. And so part of the probate, my sister and I were like, no, we knew our mom's intent, even through emails, that her intent was to put him on the deed. So basically we told the court, we don't want the house. It's Mark, put Mark on the deed. Hindsight is always 2020. We should have been a little bit more clearer, or clarified that yes, put his name on the house because, well, his name is on he should have the house, but also that when he dies, that we should also get our portion of the house, because it was my mom's house for many years before he came into the picture. So now he has two kids of his own. They're actually, his youngest is a year older than I am. Two great people. I Just very, very nice people, very, very good-hearted people. Um, uh, but they own the house. At least that's my understanding. Like they get everything that was Mark's. So it's been really, really hard uh, seeing my mom's house being gutted in a sense, just of all the belongings and all that kind of stuff, and being sold off. And my sister and I have no say in what happens at all. So I think that's one thing that I've been struggling with. Um, Now there was, I pilfer is the wrong word, but one of the I would just, it's like going over there. It's like, okay, well, this was my mom's piece of furniture and I want it, so I'm going to go get it. My sister, so basically, when it came to all my mom's stuff, my sister and I just went through and pilfered. That's not a great word, but it's the best word. I mean, we just kind of went through and pilfered stuff. And uh, it was, there was one armoire that we hadn't, uh, there was one armoire that we had in there that wasn't, uh, I said I didn't want it because I didn't know where I was gonna put it because I've got so much crap in this house. So, it was one of those where it was like, what do I do with it? I don't know. So I go over there, we get, uh, I had gotten this one hutch that my mom had, and, I'd always wanted it. My sister didn't want it. I didn't know where the hell I was gonna put it, but, Lisa was like, "We will find a place." So we get that over there. That was easy to put in the truck, and then, there were some blue chairs and some other chairs that I had always wanted. We just hadn't, Mark was always like, "Oh, just come and pick it up anytime," but you know, we didn't want to leave him with a house that he couldn't entertain people with. So the blue chairs were there. So I got the blue chairs and I got some other chairs, um, and so I go over there to get. I think it was the blue chairs, and like it was like this whole room was empty. I mean, they another little hutch that my mom had that was a friend of hers who was actually my piano teacher, Adele, and that was gone. And then so I was like, you know what? I said I want the armoire. It was a last minute thing, and I know Liesel said, "Hey, we don't want these things. Just get rid of them." And unknown, not going to answer it. Hey, Emmett, how are you, sir? So but kind of a last minute thing. I'm like, I want that. And one of his sons had already flown back to Virginia, because it was already pre-planned of uh, when he was gonna fly. Oh, oh, got your email. Shipping is a bit over expensive for myself. Okay, no, I totally understand. I totally get it. I was just like, that's a lot of money. So I get it. Um, but what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So Brad was already gone, and Mark Jr. was there, and so I tell Mark Jr. I'm like, "Hey, that armoire, I'm going to take that." And I remember, and even Mark's ex-wife was there, not Junior's ex-wife, the mom, basically Junior, Brad, mom. So mom was there, and Deanne, wonderful lady. Even though they were divorced, Mark and Deanne still had a really, really good relationship. And so basically, the three of them were taking care of him in his last days. My sister was kind of doing what she could. I was doing what I could, but they were really there at his bedside. Um, and uh, and Deanna told me something about how this one couple wanted it, and they were wanting to haggle, and Deanne was like, "Look, we're not going to haggle. Like that's the price. We want to get rid of it, but we're not going to haggle." So it was my understanding. No, nobody had their name on it. So I get, so I go in there. I'm like, I want that, and Junior was like, he's like, "Oh well, these other people, they said that they wanted it," and I said, "Well, they can't have it. It was my mom's. I'm going to take it." And so, like, it was like this, uh, um, uh, I was like, no money has been taken for it. I don't care if somebody said, "Hey, I want that." It's my mom's. I'm taking it. So, I had made like several trips. I think that may have been actually my first trip of the day. So, so I'm like, I'm gonna take this, boom. And it was one of those where we really had to, who's gonna be more dominant? And he says, "Well, I just want it gone." And I was like, "Well, I'll fucking take it today." Like I was like, it's mine, it's my mom's, I'm taking it, I will take it today. I've already planned for multiple trips. So so we so I think I had Lisa with me. Lisa and I leave. We come back, and the armoire was in the garage waiting for me to, because I was telling my sister, I was like, if it comes to blows, I have no problem hitting anybody, and you know, I'll totally fight. And it looks like I might just be stealing something today. And so, and because she's like, oh, well, you know, it's, she says, it's unfortunate they own everything. It's like, no, 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 no. They don't own mom shits. They don't own any of our mom stuff. That armoire is not theirs. So anyway, so I get it. So I get there, I put it back, and like it was, we had that, Mark and I had that little like head butting, and it was over, kind of. So I put the thing in the back of the truck, and we're collecting some just random things, just kind of put in the back, because the armoire took up the entire back of the truck. And and this couple shows up, and Mark is like, "Oh, okay, you're going to take this, and you're going to take this," and he walks them through the kitchen, and I'm there, I'm getting all the Starbucks mugs, and he says, "What does he say?" He says, "Oh, he says that guy right there, he took the armoire he took the armoire that you wanted." And I think this was on, maybe this was trip number two. This was trip number three that this happened. So I had already taken. I was back for trip number three, and this couple, you know, walks in, and so he says, "Oh, he's, you know, he's the one that took the thing," and I was like, "Yeah, because it was my mom's." And he goes, "Well, I was just kidding," and I'm pretty sure he was just kidding. You know, Mark's not a bad guy; he's a good guy, but it was just, you know, in family, when things are stressful, you know, you butt heads, and that just kind of happens. But but yeah, it was, and I turned to Alexa, because Alexa was with me on that third trip. And I said, "What?" I said, "What's that term? I'll throw hands." And she just starts busting up. So, so yeah, so, you know, when somebody dies, it can be a little bit stressful. Um, I don't know, I don't know his boys very well. I mean, I've interacted with him before. I've had more interaction with Brad than I've had with Mark, but they are good people. Like Brad, I think Brad lives in Virginia, and Mark, I think, lives in Nevada. I think he lives in Las Vegas or something like that. But so it's just one of those things. Um, I did get my grandmother's piano. Normally, I wouldn't want something like that, but because I really didn't have any attachment to it. But Alexa really wanted the piano, so we made room in the garage for it, because that's really the only place we could put it. And uh, I was actually making plans to go get it yesterday. Well, those plans would have fallen through, because we had, you know, snowpocalypse 2023 happen out here. But uh, Brad calls me from Virginia, and he's like, "Hey," he's like, he says, um, he says, "I know that you were trying to make plans for the piano." He says, "But what if I just had it moved for you? I'll take care of it." Not, he says, not to make sure that it's out of the house, but just because, you know, I just want to do this for you. And I was like, "Well, damn. I mean, that saves me some beer and pizza and some, you know, hurt backs," because it was in my mom's basement, and there was a way to get it out, but then there was like this, I don't know, 20-foot section of grass that we would have either had to drive over or whatever to get it there. So so that was delivered on Wednesday, and I didn't have to pay a dime. It was actually very, very cool that that happened. So all the drama that happens when somebody dies, gotta love it. All right, so Emmett, it's unfortunate some great martial arts books for sale in the States, and shipping to Europe makes it so expensive. It's unaccessible to us poor Europeans. Well, Emmett, I think that you could. Well, I know you want it signed. I know you want the book signed, and that's really what the cost of it is. But I think you could still just buy it off Amazon, and it'll ship to you locally. So, and if you have Amazon Prime, it won't cost you a dime. So just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there. Or if you want to buy it from me, I think I could probably, because I'll just ship it through Amazon anyway. um, don't do it yet. But yeah, I think you should probably be able to just buy it off Amazon. Because like the way I do it, and I don't make this a secret at all, if you buy it from me, especially if you're out of the country, uh, even though it does cost a little bit more for shipping, I actually go onto Amazon's website and through the author, because I can order author copies, and I can ship to I can ship to you through Amazon. So I like doing that because I don't have to deal with the shipping. Amazon takes care of that. I also get a better return for what do you call it? Bigger royalty. So the only thing that sucks is that if I do the ship, if I do the print order and the shipping through Amazon, it takes like 3 weeks, and especially like during the Christmas time, it was like there were some orders that took like 4 weeks for people to get, um, some longer. So, but average time is about 3 weeks. I've had them as early as two, but that's unheard of. But but like if you were to buy it, like you'd have it within a few days if you just bought it normally off Amazon instead of like me doing it. Yeah, I don't know why they do it that way, but it just is. Um, let's see what other stuff is going on. Talked about the books. Oh, yeah, Star Trek. So, uh, the first episode of Picard, I talked about that. I didn't go into detail about it last week, but I did share that I had mixed feelings about it. Um, I, uh, yeah, it was just I had mixed feelings. They threw a lot at you, and I've watched it. I've watched the episode like 3 or 4 times now, but it was not a bad episode. And I'm kind of at the point where it's a good episode. I did enjoy it. It was just they, for a 10-part show, starting off that first show with, here's this and here's this and here's this and here's this. Um, uh, and maybe it's good that they kind of did that, but one of the like with watching the episode from yesterday, um, looking at the two together was like, oh, this is great. Like it wasn't that I was disappointed. I just kind of was like, "Eh." But after watching the episode yesterday, if they had dropped, and I was talking to Rob about this yesterday, if they had dropped both episode one and episode two on the same day, like Disney had been doing with Obi-Wan and Andor, um, uh, it would have been a good, complete story. Like it would have been like, oh yeah, right on. But with just hitting each episode, yeah, it's gonna be a little bit more critiqued. So, and we're gonna have questions of why did he do that? Why didn't he do that? So, like in the first episode, um, and this minor spoiler, um, but I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I don't know who's watched this or not. In the first episode, Seven does something that pisses off the captain, and he just turns to her and is like, "I want to report on everything that happened." because she actually defied his orders, yet he wants a report. Um, I'm sorry. I would have sent her, like, I would have been like, I'm gonna, sequester you to your quarters. Like, I'm gonna relieve you of your command and or relieve you of your post and basically just send you to your quarters. That's what I would have done. Um, uh, but the episode ends and you're like, what? Now, in the second episode, he does relieve her of her post. So, but it took a little bit more to get there, and but I understand watching the second episode. I understand why he did what he did in the first episode with that interaction and how it built up to that second interaction of him actually relieving her. So I don't know. Just and it almost kind of makes me think of, should I even watch it day to day? Because so one of the questions, or not one of the questions, one of the things that has happened is that there have been several critics out there, um, that have been very, very critical of season one and season two. Now, season one was kind of a dud. There were parts of it I enjoyed. There were parts that I didn't. The second season, like, I really enjoy. I thought, I didn't think it was bad storytelling. I mean, looking back, there were some questions of like, well, should they really have done that? Why did they make that choice? Why did they tell the story that way? But you're gonna get that. You're gonna get that in any story. So, um, uh, but I really like season two. But these critics who were very, very critical, like Paramount, I think even maybe the producer, Metalis, he he made the series available to these critics. So you have these critics who've, like, I think he did it in like they showed like the first 5 episodes and then they got access to the second 5 episodes. So so like they got to see it all just sitting down and watching the whole thing instead of watch, because I know that watching that first episode, if the critics who had not seen the second episode, they would have ripped the show apart. They would have. So so yeah, that so I think Paramount did that. So you have these people who are trashing Star Trek, the first 2 seasons. They say, here's all of the third season. Do with it what you will. And they got to watch it all at once, and questions were answered, you know, like right away for these people. And and there were a lot of critics who trashed the first two seasons, and love this season. So I don't know. It is what it is. Let's see. I enjoyed episode 2 more after viewing, mainly because I watched episode 1 and then episode 2. Yeah, I mean, I think so far I have only watched episode 1 or episode 2 once. I watched it yesterday morning. I haven't watched it again. Um, I tried to get Lisa to watch it last night, but she's like, I'm going to be home all weekend. They've canceled classes. So I don't know. Um, one thing that kind of threw me was, either I found an article or Rob shared an article that where the showrunner Metalis, he what is it? He confirmed that the date of that Enterprise, or that Picard season 3 was happening in, was 2401, and uh, and that kind of threw me for a loop, because it was my understanding that season 1 was $23.99. Season 2 was $24.01. And season 3 was a couple years after that, but they never really said. But he was very clear in this article that Frontier Day, I think that's what they're calling it, Frontier Day was 100 or 250 years. What is that? 250 years of since the first launching of Enterprise NX-01. Not the beginning of the Federation, but from the launch, and it was launched in 2151. Or what? Yeah, 2151. So 250 years later is 2401. I get the math. I totally get it. But so are we saying that at the end of season 3 or at the end of season 2, when we have the huge Taco Bell ass fire, thing in space that the Borg helped us help the crews protect against, and Picard basically giving Seven a field command. It's in the same year. It's in the same year. So that is the only, so far, that is the only thing. That's the only thing that that I have wrong with the show, is the showrunner saying when it happened. Now, could it happen? Absolutely. It's Star Trek. Like, they make dumb shit happen all the time. Maybe they took Seven of Nine's time as a Ranger and her time on Voyager and her time with Picard, and maybe at the time of the Taco Bell ass fire event, and was like, guess what? You're going to be a commander. And then they made this whole hubbubaloo or whatever. And then the captain of the Titan is like, hey, I want her. So I don't know. Yeah. When you search the dates for each season, you get $23.99 for season 1, $24.01 for season 2, and 25th Century for season 3, which is a kind of a cop-out if you ask me. And I would absolutely agree with you, sir. Absolutely. I just got to shake my head. And even in season 2, when Picard is talking to the as I call him, the Fox Mulder wannabe, he says I am human, but I come from a time in the future, the 25th century, to be exact. So yeah, I mean, season 2 established it was the 25th century. So yeah, okay. Oh, and my headphones are dying, so I might just have to go to let me take these out. All right, I think that worked. Hello. Yep. Okay. So a lot of major changes happened. If it had been a few months post Taco Bell incident. Still wondering where the Borg are. Why aren't we talking about a mass extinction event? Am I still muted? Oh, is that just more? Okay. Okay. Yeah, because on here it shows that my audio is working. So, okay, sweet. Jim was just texting me something came through about the book. So, yeah. So anyway, so that's my only. I'm really enjoying the season so far. On Wednesday, this next Wednesday, we have Mandalorian season 3, and Favreau has already confirmed season 4. In fact, he said as they were filming season 3, he wrote season 4. And this is one of the really cool things that I learned. There was Star Wars Theory did a whole episode on this, reading this one article. But what Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm failed to do with the sequels, Favreau and Filoni did with Mandalorian. They actually, and in fact, this was I don't know who the creator was. I was not a Babylon 5 person, but this is what the Babylon 5 guy did. He wrote the entire story. This is where the story starts and this is where the story ends. Yeah, they've already done that. They have already done that. So he wrote season 4 and where it fits in this beginning to end of the story of the Mandalorian. So yeah, super excited about that. So really, for the next few weeks, we're going to have the Bad Batch, which this last episode wasn't too bad. It was a continuation of the other episode. But yeah, we'll have the Bad Batch, we'll have Mandalorian, and we'll have Picard. So as a friend of mine had texted me yesterday, he's like, it right now is a great time to be a fan because we're getting so much content. So let's see. But like we've talked about, it's really a season that needs to be watched as a whole to really understand everything. Yes. And that's kind of why it was one of those, do I just not watch? Do I not just watch it? And do I just sit down and binge the entire thing? And I know that that's something that some people do. Like I have a student, her family only pays for one streaming service at a time. I've tried to get my wife to do this, but she is against it. But they will, like, for a couple months, they'll only have Hulu. And for a couple months, they'll only have Netflix. In a couple months, they'll only have Disney Plus. And like, they all have different price ranges, but I was like, that's kind of smart. Like, if the Mandalorian, say Disney, okay, all of Bad Batch and all of Mandalorian come out. Okay, I don't get to see it when it comes out, but I get to sit down and enjoy it in its whole and not have to be like, oh, I want to wait till the next episode. I can't wait. No, we just get to see the whole thing. So I kind of like that. I kind of like that. So anyway, that now I probably won't. I'm one of those people. I want to get You know, I want to watch every episode when it comes out, but I don't know. Sometimes it is better just to watch it back to back to back to back to back. It is the ultimate Star Trek question, specifically for Picard. I want to watch it because it's new Star Trek, but damn it, I want to fully enjoy it, have the answers to the questions created, etc. Yeah. So, yeah, I just don't know. I don't know. So, I don't know who's on here right now. It says 2 people. I got one person on YouTube and one person on Facebook. I'm assuming that the Facebook is Rob. I don't know if Emmett is still there from YouTube, but for all of those people who have watched this entire show, I'm going to quickly get back to Jim's book. So, if you if you have not contributed to Jim's book, if you know Jim Korn, if you've been to, or maybe you might not know him, but say you've been to a seminar, or you know Jim Korn, and like there was something happened and it was really funny, and you want to tell a funny story that included Jim, please submit it to me. Okay. You can email me. Let's see. Let's see. This didn't post to Facebook, but that's my email address, sensei@artisanmartialarts.com. Email me the story. Okay. Or you could record the story and then send me an audio. You can do like a video, and then we'll figure out how to get it, because what I'll do is I'll transcribe it, because the stories I want to try and keep, like I was saying earlier in the show, I want to try and keep my best. I want to keep the voice of the storyteller. So of course, if you send it to me, I might clean up the story a little bit, correct any misspellings if it was emailed, and then just kind of go from there. But I will, like, if you know where it happened, if you know the year, because what we're doing is the stories, like I've got, the way I've sectioned it out, I've got like, before, I call it This is Karate because it's relevant to the story, but I have like, This is Karate, which is kind of before he goes into the army. I have army stories. I have just kind of random stories that happened after the army. And then we've split stories into countries. And then from there, after that, like a lot of people have, Jim was asking for like a funny story and a memorable knockout. And so I have a chapter at the end that is full of memorable knockouts. And so those have happened from all over the world. But as I've gotten these stories, I've kind of plugged them in here and there. Of course, a lot of them happen in the States because there's a lot of people who haven't traveled with Jim. So the United States section is kind of big for submittals, but it doesn't matter. We want to get all of those in. So if you have a story to tell, let me know. We'll make sure that you get in the book. Jim has, like I said, about 8 more countries to get. So we've kind of put it out. I was able to get stories from people at his camp last September that I went to. So it's just one of those things that just trying to collect as many stories as possible. Again, we're at 100 pages. I am confident that that this will be at least a 200-page book, just because we've got 8 more chapters, and and I know that we can. Plus, I also have not put pictures in there yet. so stories. We want stories. But yeah, I'm super excited about it. I still even haven't written my story. I don't know if my story is going to be a foreword or an introduction or just one of the stories in there. But I do have and in fact, I actually started writing this long before Jim and I even started talking about a book for him, because I wanted to do, it wasn't really like a memoir, but I wanted to do a book. I was calling it How I Met Them. And you take these famous people, and how I met these famous people. And so, or like either famous people or people that inspired me. So I've written a number of, of pages, or a number of stories. Like I have one for Rory Miller, and I have one for Dan Anderson, and I have one for Bram Frank, and I have one for Jim Korn. So it's just one of those things where it's just, I don't think I mean, I have one for Mark Klein, but I have not written it yet. But it's, it's like, this is how I met this person. And even like Rob, like, how I met Rob and how our friendship has grown. It's anyway. So that's kind of a book. It probably won't come out until like I'm freaking 70 years old, but I'll probably take what I've written and modify it for Jim, because I wanted to have that, this is the first time I met Jim, and this is how, because honestly, for me, and he laughs at this. For me, like, he was Jim Korn, like he was scary, because I've seen videos of him and, pounding on people, and that angry face, frown, scruff. So there was some intimidation there. And putting out my Q Show stuff, I noticed he was like, with Q Show Corner, he was sharing my Q Show stuff. And I'm like, this is Jim Korn. He's sharing my Q Show stuff. Like, that's really, really cool. And it's funny because I even talked to, because a lot of people don't really share them, and that's fine. I don't, it doesn't matter. But it was, but I thought anyway, so I thought it was really, really cool because he was sharing my stuff. I reached out to him for episode 100, my knockout episode. And he's like, I was like, oh, we can do an episode over, episode over, either Messenger or Zoom or whatever. Cause I wanted a video thing. And, and he's watching. I've told this story several times. So, and he laughs at me because he's like, you're an idiot. But it's one of those where, like, he was sharing my shit. It's cool. So I reach out to him and tell him, hey, this is how we can do it. He goes, oh, I don't know how to do that. He says, why don't you I'm having a camp, just come out here. He says, you got to pay for the ticket, but I'll put you in my cabin and you can teach. And I'm just like, he's going to give me a place to stay. I get to teach. Holy cow. So it was one of those, like for me, I've never really thought I was anything big. But it was, but for me, it was like a huge honor. Like, this is Jim Korn. And not to downplay him at all, but when you really get to know him, I love Jim. Jim, since Jim is watching, I love you, dude. Like, this guy, he is big and intimidating, but he's a teddy bear. When you really get to know him, when you become part of his group, he is like this protector. He's a teddy bear. And, yeah, so it was one of those things. It's like, why was I intimidated? Like, this is one of the nicest guys I've ever met. So yeah, it's just one of those things, I'm pretty. That's awesome. So
So anyway, but so that book, we're working on that book. If you want to uh, submit a story, we are James Corn. He's a teddy bear that hits like a truck. Yes. Dwayne, I cannot remember his last name. He's the chiropractor that's out in Indiana that's always goes to gym stuff. I have a little story in there from him, but he also had a little anecdote that was like, this is between being kicked by a mule and hit by Jim Corn. I'll take getting kicked by a mule any day. I was like, that's just hilarious. So, getting oh, here Rob and Jim are having a little conversation back and forth. So I guess Nomad Book 3 got delayed, and he's getting he likes it. See, it's great that we have these. Yeah, okay. So Bachschnatter or whatever. That's Dwayne's last name. So yeah. But anyway, so I guess that's all that's fit to print there. I've let's see. So seminars coming up, and just different events. If I have my Friends in the Art experience around my birthday, it'll be really, really tight because June 2nd, which is actually my birthday, it's a Friday, an elementary school that I deal with, they're having a carnival, and I get to have a table there, and I'll be selling popcorn and cotton candy for them. All the money would go to them. And then, so if I do the seminar, it'll be like the very next day. So, but in September, I am still planning on going out to Jim's for his camp. And Jim's camp is going to be the weekend right before the Jacksonville camp. So my plan, and plans change, but this is what I'm pretty much sticking to, is I will be flying out and be at the September seminar for Jim, hanging out with him, and then he and I and whoever else is gonna be going. We're gonna all drive to Jacksonville. So I'll be at the Jacksonville camp, and then I will fly from Jacksonville home. I think financially, I'll be gone for a week. There won't be any, school. There won't be any classes unless, of course, hopefully I'll be able to have somebody to run some basic classes for me. But, with that, I'll be able to hit 2 seminars, and with the cost of plane tickets, it really won't be that much, because right now, like for me, flying from here to Evansville, where I fly into to go to Jim's camp, it's like $1,000. It's like round trip, $1,000. I remember when like just a few years ago, it was half that cost. And I get it. Costs have gone up, wages have gone up, fuel has gone up, but holy cow, like that's a lot of money. Like in April, I have there's a business event that is happening in what is it? There's a business event that's happening in Boston, and I reached out to Asa and Asa Seeley, one of my buddies, and I was like, "Hey, if I come to this, can I crash on your couch?" And so he was like, He's like, absolutely, absolutely. Like the ticket's only going to cost me like $600 for a round trip. Like, holy cow. I did actually check into tickets to Indianapolis for at still about $800. So I have not checked Louisville though. I'll have to check that, but Indianapolis, it was still about $800. But yeah, so I think the whole round trip with the cost of the seminar and flight, and if I'm just hanging out on Ace's couch, that doesn't cost me anything, and maybe a little bit of food. It'll cost me just over $1,000, which like the event is it's pretty expensive. So yeah, it's I don't know, but I still don't know if I'm going to be able to make it to that one. I kind of want to do it. If I go to the event in April in Boston for this business camp, and it's just a 1-day thing, then I may not go to California in August. So yeah, I know. Asa could fly to Norway for less than coming here. I know. He and I were talking about that. I think he caught a flight. I think he said he paid like $450 to go to Norway from Boston. Like, that's nuts. That is absolutely nuts. And it's funny because I did a flight thing. I was like, okay, well, what if I went to Norway? How much would that cost? Because Asa and I had talked about that on our way back from last September. And, he's like, oh yeah, it only costs, it's just like, I just jump right over. It's really cheap. And I'm like, dude, I got to fly across the country and then across the Atlantic. It was actually cheaper. Get this. It was cheaper for me to book a flight to Boston, book a second flight to Norway and back. So I'd have a round trip. I'd have one round trip ticket from Boston to Norway, and then another round trip ticket from Boston to Portland. And it was cheaper. It was cheaper than going from Portland to Norway and back, with like a stop in like Chicago or something like that. And I'm just like, seriously? So I don't know. At some point, I do want to go to Norway, Denmark, Germany. I would love to train with those guys over there on their home turf. Right now, it's just not a possibility. Now, going back to the whole family story, if I got 1/4 of the house, I could totally afford it. And it would just be like, oh yeah, slap down some money. Boom. I don't know. Not holding my breath. So, yeah, that's going to end our show for today. So, I thank you all for hanging out. I am taking my last sip of tea. So, again, watch Picard. Mandalorian is coming up on Thursday. Submit a story if you haven't already. And you are absolutely right, Jim. And actually, Jim, I'll probably call you here in a little bit after I get off here. And then, yeah, if you have, share this with people, like, share, subscribe, all that really cool social media stuff, and, be safe and live long and prosper.